Sarah, Cody, did y'all have a good Thanksgiving?
We, Baker Bowl at the Cavanaugh house where we bake cookies and candies and treats and everything for friends and family and then have an open house. We went through 25 pounds of coating chocolate
Oh,
in 48 hours. So yeah, we had a great sugar fest at Team Cavanaugh.
that
Awesome.
sounds awesome.
Yeah, we did too. We for the first time we hosted a flag football game between our men's Bible study and then all of our sons. So they came to the neighborhood park and we all played flag football from 8 to 9 and enough time to get home and help with all the food and everything. But we had a blast and it was really good. And of course the food and the Cowboys won and all that. So it was good.
Oh,
But
fun.
the question is, did anybody break anything?
No, by the grace of God, like he heard and answered our prayer that nobody would pull a hamstring and we were all set. So we were very grateful for that. Very thankful for that, you might say.
Yeah.
Haley, what about you? Little bits, get into the whole turkey leg situation?
We didn't do a whole lot for Thanksgiving itself. We were at Will's family's house, but the weekend we celebrated in Nashville. So we went to see Opryland. You can see the tree. I like Christmas a little bit, and so we went over there because they're all decked out, with their lights and everything by this time of year. So we did that. Saw Santa. So had a good weekend, just the five of us.
Awesome.
It's funny to hear you say five now. I mean, it's been four for a minute, and now all of a sudden it's five.
And it's gonna stay five.
Yeah, I went six. That's a handful. That's a
Yeah.
lot. That's a lot.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. So, welcome everyone. This is the final edition of TouchPoint's to the Point webinar for this year, for this series for this year, I should say. So towards the end of the call, we're going to be telling you a little bit about the webinar that's going to happen next month. But today we have just a wonderful treat for you. And I'm going to ask Sarah to introduce herself in just a few minutes. But the topic of this webinar is first-time guests and first-time givers. So we know we need to have a process in place for welcoming people into the church, for making them feel at home, and for following up with them. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And I asked Sarah to join us and to share some insights regarding what her team does at Mount Pisgah. Sarah, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Sarah. Some of you may have already seen or heard this from Summit, but you're coming along for a refresher course, and yay, welcome. So glad to have you. And those of you who haven't seen it or missed it at Summit, it's just, I've been with Mount Pisgah on the ministry side and children's ministry, and then on the data administration side. So I kind of know both ends of the spectrum, being on the front lines and then being the person who cleans up the front lines. So hopefully this is going to help you tie those two together and just do great things for your church. Everybody knows the Christmas season is chock-a-block with visitors and out-of-towners and things like that. So this is a great chance to make a good first impression. So I'm very excited.
Thank you. And I'm Haley Whitworth. I serve in a marketing role here at TouchPoint. And like Sarah said, she did talk about this at Summit. If you want to know, if you want to learn more about Summit, I'm your person. So reach out to me. I'd love to tell you about Summit. And we're already planning next year's Summit. But we got such wonderful feedback regarding her Summit session. So I figured we've got to share this more broadly with folks. And then of course we have Cody on the call today. So Cody, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Haley. My name's Cody Binder, and I'm a new consultant on the team at TouchPoint. So I started at the beginning of October, so I'm kind of in that training ramp up Faze, and I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I'm really just here just in case Haley's voice decides to go completely out. So I'm like the backup QB on the sideline just in case today.
And I appreciate it. Thanks so much. All right. Here's our agenda. Sarah, before we dive in, can you tell us who is your intended audience today? So is this information for growing churches? Is this for churches who are just new to TouchPoint? Who is this going to benefit?
So do you work for a church? Then it's you. Really, it's really for anybody, growing church, a church that's been in the business for a long time. Sometimes I think we can settle into a pattern and a process, and we can think that it's effective. And hopefully for those who find themselves in that place, this is just a fresh look to say, where can I fine tune? For those that are brand new, to TouchPoint, it's a great way to learn what tools are available for you. To a little church, this is a chance to learn, how can I grow? What can I do differently or better? Or what can I start doing that might make our church more welcoming and a place to call home, as Mount Pisgah says. So it's really, if you work for a church, it's for you. That would be
Awesome.
my suggestion.
All right. Well, with that, go ahead. I'll hand it over to you.
All right. So you can see on the agenda, I'm not going to read it to you, but just kind of what are we going to cover today? So let's just go ahead, Haley, jump up. I'm brand new. I'm walking through your church doors for the first time. Oh, yes, yeah, sorry. Consider this as we go. Just look at these 3 questions that are here. Maybe jot down some notes. What do you do well? Where do you have a hole in your process? And what's one thing today that comes up in our conversation that you might try to implement? It's the holiday season. Everybody knows you're not going to build your process between now and December 24th. All right, let's just be realistic. But is there 1 or 2 things that you can pick up, that you can fine tune, tweak, add to your system that maybe will help you do December 24th better? So we'll jump right in. So if I walk through your door for the first time, what does your church do? And you're going to say, Sarah, we don't have a process. That's a process. The lack of one is still one. Our church didn't really have a healthy process necessarily for the church-wide program. But whenever what we started to do in children's ministry was working, we expanded it to the church-wide program. So don't think that just because you don't have something formal, you don't have something. When people come to your church, you are making a first impression and you are creating a hospitality environment. The question is, how effective is it? So for a minute, just think real quick. New visitor, who recognizes them? Who approaches them? Who and when they approach them, what do they do? What is their purpose? What is their point? So that's where I would start you all on welcoming new visitors and first-time guests. Identify what you're currently doing, because you are doing something, even if it's nothing. So I'll just walk you through real quick what Mount Pisgah does. So we have Connect cards that we have 2 versions. We have an adult version that goes upstairs to our main congregation. So it's real basic. Haley, can you jump to that one for me? There you go. It's a real basic way to collect the information. And as you can see, it's collecting just the bare minimum: name, phone number, email. We can get the rest later, but this gives us contact points to talk to and to connect with that person after they leave the church. That day, not leave the church, but leave the building. So it's going to collect basic information. You'll notice that there's a line there that says notes. Whoever is your hospitality team, whether that be a specific individual who's stationed at your welcome desk or a team of people at your welcome desk, they're going to have a conversation, hopefully. Oh, please make sure that they're trained on how to have a conversation. Where did they come? Like, get just some nuggets of information about this person. Are they visiting family from out of town? Do they have children who just may not be with them? We have a lot of parents who do that. They send one parent ahead to scope things out, and we'll collect the information here, and we can make notes down there. Oh, but they also have an 8-year-old and a 7-year-old, and that gives us just contact points and things to know about them, so that when we follow up on that first visit, we have something to talk about. Here's one that I am really working hard with our hospitality team. Tell me what service they came to, because they may not actually go this step to check into worship via the text message or whatever. So if you can mark on there for me which service they came to, now I know if they're a traditional service or if they are a contemporary service. And I can tailor the information I give them based on that service. Just general conversation tidbits. You've happened to find out that they just moved into a neighborhood down the street, but you know someone else from your congregation who's in that neighborhood. Great. You have an additional connection point that you can identify. We are in the middle of retooling this card, but we have the ministry areas you're interested in. You could add something like a prayer request to this. But here's a little something that I learned. I mean, you're always learning, right? Something I learned is some of our staff on Sunday morning didn't even know where this card was located. So make sure that not only does the card exist to collect the information, but make sure your staff and your volunteers know where it is. Make sure they know how to use it, because they'll talk. Our senior pastor will talk to people and get all kinds of delightful nuggets about the new person visiting, but he won't get the Connect card to save my life. So make sure your staff know where it is. Make sure they know how to use it. I've often suggested, why don't you just tuck 1 or 2 of those in your front pocket? He never does, but his heart is in the right place. So make sure this is known. But this is for upstairs. This is for our adults. Then we have our family card, which goes with check-in downstairs. This one is going to be a little more intense, which has its own challenges, shall we say. So especially when you're dealing with people's children, you want to make sure that you have ways to contact them, that you can take care of their kids to the best of your ability. This is not just a health and safety issue with allergies and snacks and things like that, but you want to know just kind of what the family dynamic is a little bit, right? So that you can love on them well. If you have a really little one who's a middle child, who's never come to your church before, they're going to need some finesse. They're going to need some hand holding, and they're going to need to know that they are seen. I have 4 children. I know what those middle kids look like. Your oldest one is going to charge full speed ahead, and your baby is going to scream and not want to leave mom. We know what they are, right? But if you know where they fall in the family thematic, then you can help. One of the things that we have on our new family card is the media release, because as in the age of social media, you know, small group leaders are snapping, oh, this is a great picture of our group doing something together. Do we have permission for that kid? Make sure you cover that and make sure you draw the parents' attention to that. You'll notice across the bottom of our card, again, we have the different programs and activities that these kids are coming into. Make note of that so that your children's ministry team can connect them better and you can identify what hour they came to. Because we're asking for so much information on this card, we found that there are some best practices, maybe. We have a manned check-in station with volunteers, and we set them up kind of in pairs so that while mom is filling out the new family card, the second volunteer is engaging with the kids or with the second parent and kind of taking some of the pressure off mom to don't touch that, or taking the pressure off dad with what's our phone number again? You know, things like that. Which phone number are we going to call? I mean, we've all seen it, because which one of us is going to have our cell phone on in service? And so we work in teams. one person doing the check-in, collecting the information, one person engaging the family, sharing information about your children's ministry program, your nursery program, engaging with the kids and kind of setting them at ease, talking up what they're about to experience, to just help make that new family experience a little easier. I have seen moms come into worship just more frazzled from trying to do this with their kids in tow than if they had just come by themselves. And that's not the experience we want a family to have when they first come. Because if mom's frazzled about getting there, if it's so hard to get there, your chances of her coming back are going to be significantly diminished. So just kind of developing a new family approach to collecting that information, because you do want to follow up with them. And I think Ross said it at Summit that they come in crisis or they come in transition. When a new family comes, more than likely they have a new child or they're in a crisis, right? So this is just another way to take that next step. So we also have we have QR codes that connect digital. Feel free to take a screenshot if you want and test those out later. Not completely thrilled with our children's card. We tried to use the one-page form and that collects the parents and then it doesn't get. So that one's in process, but you can kind of get a feel. And we love the QR codes because you can post them just about anywhere and families can fill that out on their phone before they even get to you. They can fill it out in advance of coming, that kind of thing. If it's on your website, your links, your registration links and things like that. If you have a digital connect card, that takes some of that pressure off of that first time visitor situation as well. And we get the confirmation. So we can send a welcome email before they even step through the door, give them information, give them a chance to ask questions and things like that. So we love the digital connect card and use it a lot, especially for events. We've made this general enough that it's not just limited to worship. We can post this during an event or at, a walk-up situation, and folks can share their information, no pressure style, and we can start to make connections. So, but that's all data. So we've collected all this data. What happens to it? So I think I rearranged these a little bit, Haley, but the new person manager. Do you have a new person manager in your church? Okay. You got all the data with the connect cards and the digital connect cards, but the first step to this, in my opinion, is that new person manager, because they're going to assess and evaluate the data. Do we have everything we need? And is it keyed in correctly? I cannot tell you how many times I've looked at an email and went, well, Gmail isn't going to get me anywhere. But if I correct that to Gmail, I bet I can make contact with that person. Or the 10-digit phone number that has 12 digits because the 0 got doubled. So who's your new person manager? And make sure that they validate the information a little bit. Then your new person manager is also going to say, okay, where did this person come from? So did they come from worship? Then I'm going to direct them along a worship hospitality track. Did they come from children's ministry? Did they come from student ministry? Did they come from an event? And your new person manager is going to help tailor where that person goes next. They're kind of your gatekeeper on new family records. They'll also be your person who can catch people who came in maybe through giving and they didn't fill out a connect card. They didn't fill out a digital connect card, but they did give in the offering plate on Sunday. They're going to catch that person and they're going to be able to enter them into the hospitality process. So that person realizes that they might not have been seen, but they didn't go unseen. So, and then they're going to determine where do we go next with this person? Based on where they came from, what could they possibly be interested in? Based on those notes on that connect card or the prayer request on the digital connect card, where can I direct them, or who can I connect them to that would make them want to come back, or that would just tie them a little bit closer to us. This is where the delightfully magical, still in process builder is going to come in handy for you. So it's one of those tools that you can use with your new person manager sees it. This is what I do because I'm a new person manager. They're going to kick them into one of these 3 processes, right? So they came in from upstairs. I'm going to kick them directly into our hospitality director. And I'm going to provide her with the information. What service did they attend? What else do I know about their family? Were they online? Were they in person? And I'm going to put those little notes in there, and I'm going to task her. And if you're not using tasks and notes, I'm sorry. Please start. It's the best tool you have for passing this information around and getting your process going, because everyone will be able to see. So I task my new visitor to our hospitality director. She sends them a welcome that says, we're so glad you were here. Hey, here, based on what we know from their Connect card, this person is really interested in finding a small group. This person had great things to say about the choir. This person has teenage children who are struggling to connect. So she then can share additional information, send them to we have, this just recently happened. We had a new visitor who was just very impressed with our choir and let us know at the check-in desk or at the hospitality desk. And so Christina passed it on to our worship director, who reached out to her and said, hey, I'm so glad you enjoyed the choir this Sunday. She's a judge for the large group performance evaluations in our local schools, and is a band director, and is now in our choir, and is a backup director for our orchestra. And just like that, she went from the choir sounded amazing this morning to a fully engaged individual ready to take membership vows and here all the time, right? So knowing those things and making that welcome and that connection on a personal level helps move them through into deeper engagement. For children's ministry, passing that person on to our children's ministry director and saying, hey, this mom came to church upstairs, but without her kids. She has 3 kids of this age, and our children's ministry director is able to reach out to her and go, hey, so glad that you came to visit. We can't wait to meet your kids. Here's what we have for nursery age kids. This is what we have for K through 5. Oh, you have a 5th grader? We have a great leadership team that helps transition them into student life where they're going next. And she can highlight those things that pertain to her. For your givers, okay, they came in through giving. They didn't want to tell us who they were upstairs. Your first time givers are sneaky. They're sneaky. They want to be part of the church because if they're giving their money, they're engaged, right? You give your money where you're engaged, but if they're giving their money, they're engaged. But they don't want to tell you that they're engaged. So how do you get them engaged on the radar? So this is a fun one. So identifying who those people are, figuring out what they gave to. If they are a first-time giver and they specified on their check that so ice them. This is my favorite, ice them. It sounds so mafia. And when I presented in Chicago, it really did feel mafia. But so identify who they are. You're going to build some saved searches that are going to look for first-time givers or newly recurring givers, people who have set up recurring giving for the first time. So set up those saved searches and run those on Monday morning and find those people who tried to slide in under the radar. Then you're going to connect with them. So send them a thank you note for their gift, no matter how much it was. No matter how much it was, right? They put a $5 bill in an envelope and they put their name on it. Send them a thank you note. and then task them into the hospitality process, obviously. But let's say on that offering envelope, they also put, you know, I want this to go to missions. There's someone who has a heart for missions. Connect them to your ministry, to your missions pastor. They put in there, I want this to go to one of our local outreach partners. Send them to the lay leader who's a representative for that partner, and encourage them. Then don't just stop with that first gift. Collect stories from your ministry areas. And whenever there's a really great story for missions, we had this tremendous trip that the students went on. Share that success story with the people who have given to missions. The new app, which very excited about, is going to have giving impact cards on it where you can tailor that to show them that this is where your giving went. This is what you did with your $5 in an envelope, right? And just giving them some ownership and some, I contributed to that. I helped make that happen. I did that with God. Really will help connect them and deepen that relationship in your program. So see, what do I have next, Haley? Am I on to, yes. So some tools that you have. We talked about this in flyover, but now I'm going to drill it on you. Use your tasks and notes, please. Keywords, you will set up keywords that will say hospitality, and it'll say hospitality first time visitor, hospitality third time visit. And you're going to send those through your system. You're going to make notes of what you talk about. So when you refer it to your missions pastor, he's going to be able to go in there and go, oh, you know what? This is their third visit. They've been, you know, coming to the 9:30 service. That's why I haven't met them yet. And then your missions person can make a point to be at the 9:30 service, or say, hey, can I meet you after the 9:30 service, before the 11 o'clock service? I'd love to tell you more about this mission project you're interested in. But they don't know that if it just lives in your head. And remember this, your missions pastor isn't going to be your missions pastor forever. Eventually, someone else is going to be your missions pastor. And I know we're talking about new visitors and first-time guests, but if the information lives in tasks and notes in your database, it doesn't matter who fills that role. They're going to be able to see that, and they're going to be able to create continuity for your ministry. If our children's ministry director sends a welcome from children's ministry, and 3 visits down the road, our hospitality director goes in to send them a welcome email, and she starts saying, you know, you should really talk to our children's ministry director. Oh dear. You don't know me. You don't care to know me, because I've already had these conversations, right? So saving those notes and making those notes, which are role protected, if you want them to be, not out there for the whole world to see, just helps you to do better congregational care for your people. Engagement scores, you see someone's climbing, great. Now I can take that person and pass them on to discipleship. I can look at them maybe for a volunteer opportunity. But using the engagement scores, using the process builder, which I don't have noted here because it's still in beta. We'll put that in quotes, right? I think everybody is playing with it a little bit. But the process builder will help move them through and deepen their engagement. So use those tools that already exist to help you out. So we're going to come back to that. It's the last slide, but it was the first slide. So what do you do well? So we're going to revisit all this. I know that was a fire hose conversation, and I apologize. Trying to cover a million miles in 30 minutes is tough. But what are you doing well at your church along the process? Where do you have holes? And what's one thing that you might take away to do better or do differently where you are? So I think, Haley, we have time for questions.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, good. Yay.
All right, Sarah. So there was a great question from Brian, and he asked if someone selects no on the media release question, how do you distribute that to your staff and volunteers? And then how do you police that kind of going forward?
So that one, if we have a no on media, we add the media release to the extra value. So, we make note of that. We definitely tell the small group leader right off the bat, whoever the volunteer is that stays with that person, and make that whole ministry area aware of this person is a no photos situation. And then when there is social media pictures or something like that, our communications person is very good about, hey, look at this picture real quick. Tell me, are there some no flies up here? Because I need to make sure I don't violate that. And she has access to those extra values too, but she doesn't know what the child's face is, right?
Mhm.
So the other thing, if you're using check-in, you can store a profile picture, of course, with family permission. You can store a profile picture and say, listen, the reason, yes, I know you said no to the media release, but I want to be able to identify your child in pictures, and this is secured in our database. It's not going anywhere else. It's just living here, so that when a social media picture comes up for question, I'll be able to say, nope, that little one is there, and protect that little one. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, that's a great question.
A couple questions here. First one I'll answer. Someone asked if we will share a copy of the slides. So whenever I make the blog post with the recording, I will also include the slide deck with it. So y'all be able to find it there. And then we have another one for you, Sarah. And I'm not sure exactly, John, if you want to clarify, I'm not sure exactly which form is in question, but he's asking if you're using a one-page form for your online form. So maybe it's the QR, the one that
Whenever you scan the QR code, yeah, the Children's Connect card is a one-page form. That one I'm not thrilled with because it doesn't give you the option to register additional family members. A one-page form is just for the individual. So I would not, for children's ministry, collecting a family form, I wouldn't necessarily recommend the one-page version. But if you did joint involvement, you could collect all the information about the family. On the new visitor form, I think we left out, I think that one may also be a one-page form, but that one I'm not quite so stickler about, because I really only need the information for at least one person. And then I can contact them and collect the rest. So I think they might both be one page.
And then we have a question here. Do you have a 30, 60, 90-day process to ensure first timers move to second and third time members?
We're working on one.
I was gonna say, is that something that you use Process Builder for?
Yeah, I'm trying to do that with Process Builder. The problem is people don't always visit. What you would do with them at 3 visits versus 30 days, right? They may not come, they may come twice in 30 days, but so what we're struggling with is, okay, it's been 30 days since their first visit. How do we follow up with them, especially if they haven't recorded their attendance? And worship in particular. With kids, we can see because we've checked them in, right? We know that they've attended. That's a little easier to do a 30, 90, 60, right? But with adults, they don't always check into worship. So they may have been in our system for 30, 60, 90 days, but only come once or twice. So the struggle we have is making sure that people are recording their attendance. And I personally like to base it off of how many times they've visited versus how many days they've been visiting. Because we all know, we've all read the Barna studies, right? Twice a month is a high attendee. Not when we grew up, right? You had to be there when the doors were open. So you can develop that, but I think you need to work with your team and with the DNA of your church to determine what that looks like for your church. That's a really non-answer answer. Sorry.
I think it's helpful. We'll see if there's any follow-up to that. We have a couple of other questions in here too. What do you do if someone hasn't engaged in a few months? How do you control that process?
What do you do with them? Again, I think it depends on how they came in, right? We may get over the summer, July, August, we may get some great 20-something visitors. But in August, college starts back up and they're not going to engage until December. So you really, everyone wants to automate things, but I got to tell you, I'm a little passionate. In my spiritual gifts assessment, I was given the gift of hospitality. Yay for me. But that means I want to look at the people, right? I don't really care about the metrics, and I don't want to rely on an automation to, so yes, it is helpful to have some automation, but really look at the people, look at the notes, to how you re-engage them. We've had first-time visitors, again, they come in crisis or transition, right? They're at church because their mother has just been diagnosed with cancer. And they're here real consistent for 3-4 weeks, and then all of a sudden they disappear because now they're completely out of state taking care of a family medical situation, right? So really be personal. It's okay to be personal. Jesus was personal. We need to be personal, right? So how do we re-engage them? You just reach out. You just keep reaching out. An email, hey, missed you. Is there anything we can help you with? Can we pray for you? Obviously, don't dog them, right? But you want to look at the negative space and recognize when they're gone. Sometimes just recognizing when someone is gone makes all the difference in getting them to come back.
Well, along those lines, Sarah, Jenny asked a really good question, and that is there such a thing as too many contacts? So if children's ministry is following up and the connections team is following up, and then the small group team is following up, like, can you have so many that we're maybe turning people away? What are your thoughts on that topic?
So when we built our keywords for our hospitality process, we put in there check boxes. And if you aren't familiar with keywords, head to the documentation. But we put in there check boxes of what information was shared. So if Christina, our hospitality director, goes in and she says, like, records that she made contact with this family on this date. Again, tasks and notes. I can't emphasize it enough. She made contact with this family on this date, and she shared information from this ministry area, this about worship, and this about this. Then when my children's ministry director, and she'll task it from there, like, I'm just coming from an adult worship situation, she'll task it over to children's ministry with maybe follow up with them about information about our Wednesday night programs. And our children's ministry director can see, well, Christina just made contact. I don't need to make contact right now. Leave that task open. Put a due date on that task that says I need to do this in 2 weeks or a week and a half or whatever, so that you can keep track of those things. And okay, well, she's already shared information about that. And you can reference back to that whenever you're making contact. I know you talked to Christina about general worship and, upcoming special events that we have in children's ministry. Let me share a little bit about our regular programming, and so make those notes. Oh my goodness, please make the notes. It's really something that it's truly helped our congregation. Our membership pastor is probably third in the chain of connection, but he can have a more meaningful connection with membership when he knows what they've already been engaged in, who's already talked to them, and what they've talked about. So
yeah, and then the flip side of that coin is make sure that everybody on the team reads the notes before they.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay. So training, right? My staff hates it because every time there's a new staff person, we revisit tasks and notes training for everyone. It's a joy and a delight, right? So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. They love it. So we have a whole, and to that, it's just a little sidebar. Whenever I'm doing training, we have a whole family called the generics, and they have joined everything in the church, and they've dropped out of everything in the church, and they've had every contact you can imagine because the generics, they are first time visitors every single week. It's great. It's great.
And I did put that help article in the chat about task and notes keywords as well. So for those who want to read more about it. I don't know if we're going to get to all of the questions, but we've got a few more here. How much would you say having a dedicated follow-up / hospitality person has impacted your new visitor process and getting people connected?
I mean, I love her. I really love her because she, having a dedicated hospitality person, she's there on Sundays, so she gets to meet a lot of these people and have these conversations herself. But then she also can really dedicate her time to having one-on-one phone calls and emails and engage to get to know people so that when she passes them on to someone else, it's consistently the same process. She'll identify things a little better than even I do about, oh no, that person, I had a conversation with them. They really need to go to the caring pastor, not the discipleship pastor, right? Like she can really get to know them, and is definitely more effective from that angle because she can dedicate time to it.
In the spirit of sharing what some other churches do or do well, one person, Bill, says, I love the process of simply keeping those folks in a widget of who they, either the staff or the volunteer, are the span of influence for those people. And then he also said, we train on the how of looking at a person or a family. So tasks and notes, involvements and communication tabs give you the best and the fastest way to get to know someone.
Very true. If you have geocoding, I don't know how many people have geocoding for developing your small groups, but that's an excellent way to maybe make a layperson connection. So you find out that this new visitor is in Spring Ridge subdivision and you have another person there. Okay, on Sunday morning, let's introduce. Oh, we live 2 streets away from each other. Our kids share a school, whatever. And that also can help you empowering your lay people. Yeah.
Well, it looks like there are some questions that we're going to need to get to via email because we can't get to them all. But first, thank you so much, Sarah, for being here. This is wonderful information, and I can tell just by how engaged everyone was in the chat that it's so helpful. And Will and I can attest to witnessing this process firsthand because we got to visit Mount Pisgah back in the spring, and that picture you painted was so accurate for our 3 kids too. It's funny. I think you might have been describing this. But next month's webinar is our fireside chat. And so it will be Thursday, December 14th at 1 p.m. Central. So it's going to be an hour earlier than most of our webinars are, but be on the lookout for more information. Of course, it'll be in our newsletter, our blog, we'll put it on Discord. So all the normal places you will be able to learn more about it and get registered. So thank you so much, everybody. We'll make this available soon. Alrighty,
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, absolutely. Super fun.
All right. Bye, y'all.